We are now going to take a look at the options that come with the mesh to volume. I made also a documentation. It's just a PDF that you can read. It's not really anything technical, but since some of you ask, I am going to explain the settings and the options that you can use with the script. Okay, so first of all, expanding versus contained volume. This is quite self-explanatory. Basically, a contained volume means that the resulting volume doesn't exceed the grid box boundaries. So it's basically the same size of the primitive of the geometry being converted. So in fact, as you see, it's just the voxels do not exceed the boundaries. We got, of course, the expanding volume that it's obviously more interesting because especially if you're doing clouds or some sparse geometry, you want the voxels to exceed the boundaries in order to create interesting shapes. But we will take a look at this later. Let's go on with the contained volume. And next option is the voxel size. As you probably know, a volume is made of voxels. A voxel is basically a cube, which is the unit measure of a volume. The smaller the voxel, or well, better, the higher the number of voxels, more detail you get in the volume. So in this case, by reducing the voxel size, we are going to produce a lot more voxels. In this case, just to make an example, our cube here is a 100 centimeters size on each axis. So basically, in this case, using a voxel size of 1 means that we are going to create 100 multiplied 100 multiplied 100. We're going to get 1 million voxels. So you can just visualize this as 1 million tiny cubes, voxels, that make up the volume. It's a fair amount of voxels, but if, for example, we set this value to, I don't know, 0.1, for example, this means that we will have voxel way more packed next to each other. So on a 100 centimeter length, we will have not more 100, but 1000 voxels, because we have reduced the size. So in the same space, we will have way more voxels. So this means, in this case, that we will have 1000 by 1000 by 1000, and is going to produce 1 billion voxels. So compare 1 million to 1 billion, and the calculation is going to grow exponentially. And I'm not going to run this because it might take maybe 3-4 hours to finish, and you understand it's not really, necessary. When you reset the options and you just go with the a voxel size of 1, it's already usually sufficient to get all the details you need. So just keep in mind that if you go way too low on the voxel, size, you are going to produce more voxels, and computing time is going to increase exponentially. All right. So I'm going to reset my options, and we are now going to check out the noise options. So, okay. I guess everybody knows what a noise map is and how you are going to, well, I mean, what it's used in the 3D graphics. You know, they're used in large amount of applications like, I don't know, for texturing, and also in volumes. They are used to displace the voxels in order to create nice effects. So in this case, for example, if I I go with the 200, set the intensity to 200, and I leave the seed and frequency just as they are, and I convert this volume, and I turn the iRay preview on. Okay, you see that we are not anymore getting a flat surface, but if I zoom in a little bit more, okay, you see that we got basically the noise map applied to the volume. And if you open the VDB folder, which is the location on disk where all the stuff produced by the script is going to be. So basically you see we have already some VDBs that we have created. These are created exponentially, so basically this is one VDB is what we see here now, and if in fact if you go to the surface for this volume, oh sorry, I have to close this, check out volume file is this one, zzz_1.vdb. Okay, I was talking about the noise map, and so basically this is what this here in the very same folder is the noise map that it's applied to this volume right now. You have to see this just as a slice, you know, because actually the noise applied to the volume is a three-dimensional noise, so it's consistent on all the three axes for the volume. So it is a continuous range of values. All right. Okay. All right. So now we are going to let me disable the iRay preview because it's slowing things down. And so I said what, brief explanation of the noise map. And now we are going to check out also the other values, the other options for the noise. Okay, I said the intensity, and the intensity is self-explanatory. The higher the intensity, more visible is the noise into the volume structure. Intensity of 0 means no noise, so you get just a flat surface. And let's try and check out what the frequency does. So this volume has been produced with the frequency of 10. If I lower the frequency and I run the script again, I'll show you what happens. So let me hide the primitive. So I'm going to, all right, see what happens. As expected, as the noise scale is reduced, noise patterns emerge and are more visible. If you increase the noise frequency, you are going to get a very chaotic output. So you just have to experiment and see what is the best, the best option. Let me show. for the sake of clarity, what happens if I use a very high frequency value. I'm going to put this here. Okay, let's hide the primitive. And okay, so you see, the higher the frequency and you know, the more chaotic the output is. Okay, so this is just to clarify how you can use frequency at your advantage. Personally, I like very much not going too high with the frequency, because I mean, lower values give you, you know, a more discernible output. You see the patterns of the noise in a better way. Okay, let's go and check out the seed option, but first, something I forgot, the not to convert selection. It's self-explanatory, all or selected only. All will convert all the geometry in the scene. Selected only, just get only what is currently selected in the scene view. I'll leave it to all, and now let's try reset the options. Let me try to set again an intensity value of 200, a frequency of 1, and I'll leave the seed at 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Then I'm going to check the VDB folder once it's done, and all right. So this is the noise map generated with the seed 1, 2, 3, 4. Now run this again. I'll put a different seed 3, 4, 5, 6, and let's see what happens. So check out different noise maps. So why this is important? It is because if you don't like, you know, the look of your volume, say you are doing clouds and you say, no, this cloud doesn't look really like the way I wanted, you can randomize, change just the seed number and see use basically a different noise map. In fact, if I I move this here and I hide the primitive and I enable the preview, you'll see how with the same frequency, the same intensity, just using a different seed number, you are going to get two different volume outputs. Okay, just a note, as you already, I guess, know, you can of course make the noise density lower or higher, just as you prefer, but we are going to check this later. One thing I wanted to say before I forget, okay, let me crank up the density. If you overlap the volumes, they quite make a mess. So you see, this is not a problem with the script, it's just the way, you know, the iRay engine works currently in Studio. Not much that we can do about this now. Devs know about this, and I suppose they are going to fix this issue in future update. So if you get in this situation, you just have to move away the boxes, so the volume boxes, so they do not overlap. Okay, and now let's check out the last option, the volume to mesh, because we can get back to the mesh. I mean, we can convert an existing volume to a mesh. So let me delete the volume to node, and let me enable also the primitive. I move this a bit here. Okay, so this is what I have now. And by the way, if you check surface, I think I already mentioned this, but it doesn't hurt to say it again. If you go to the volume options, you'll see that here it says, the VDB file that produced this output. And of course, this VDB file is in our VDB folder. It's zero. Am I right? Yes. Okay. Let's try to convert this file back to geometry and see what happens. So I'm going to run the script, and I'm going to do a volume 2 mesh this time, and he asks which VDB to convert. I choose this one, save, and what happens? We are going to basically get our volume converted back to geometry. Why? Okay, right now it doesn't seem like much, but this is actually a very powerful feature, because as you see later, you can actually create a lot of effects with this. You can have particles or lava flow, water flow, and everything. I mean, so many effects that you can come up with, because being geometry, you understand that you can actually apply any shader to it. So just for the sake of trying, if I go to where are they? Shaders, presets, array, and I go to the Uber. No, I get this one, the car paint cranberry. I enable the preview. So you'll see, basically it's geometry, so you can actually apply any shader to it. You can have also a reflective one, water, and everything that comes to mind. Let's try this, for example, glass. So you see. So I think this is a brief explanation of all the settings that you can get from the script. And well, just experiment with it. Remember that if you, there is always this button here to reset the options, and make sure to check the VDB folder, because if you are going to do a lot of experiments, this folder is going to, fill itself with data. And well, if you want to use the VDB files in other applications like Blender, Houdini, Cinema, Unreal Engine, Maya, just go ahead. You can of course rename this with a proper name, so you immediately recognize them and use them in other applications. Okay, so I think this covers pretty much the script interface. And no, I forgot something. Actually, something, the coolest thing, we didn't check out the expanding volume. All right, so I thought I was done. No, wait for the next step then. All right, so let's see now the contained versus expanding volume. For this example, for this demonstration, I have loaded a cube, a sphere, a torus, and a plane with some subdivisions, so that we have more geometry to work with. So let's try first the contained volume. Mesh to volume. This should be done very quickly. Okay, good. So we are going to move this up. And well, basically, well, there is a noise map applied, so that shows, of course, but as we already know, basically the volumes generated are just the same size about the starting geometry. Only the plane is going to be a little bit thicker because, of course, it's the displacement, the intensity here of the noise map that is going to be projected. So anyway, if you move the volume back, you'll see that there is just this tiny soft layer of volume covering the primitive, but nothing so extreme. If I run the script again, and by the way, notice how here I have the all options selected, so I'm going to convert automatically all the geometry at once. Nothing denies you to going to convert this one by one, but I think it's like this. You just get one big large volume, but you do it quickly at once. So I'm going to select now the expanding volume, and here down, if you can see, there is this tiny progress bar. It's not very much visible, but there it is. And anyway, when the script as run, you will notice because it just closed itself. So now this should be the volume with the expanding volume. And no explanations needed, I guess. As you can see, since we used some intensity here, that shows, and in fact we no longer get a cube. It's still visible. I mean that we have a cube, a sphere, a torus, and a plane, but we see that there are some turbulence and some noise applied. And of course, if I run the script again and I crank up the intensity to something crazy, it's not probably going to produce a very nice result, because when you use very extreme values, you never know what you are going to end up with, but we are going to try anyway. So I'm going to move this here, and let's see. Okay, take a look at this. All right, so this is going to be very interesting. I'm not going to show anything further for now, but you already understand that just starting with simple primitives, nothing fancy, just cubes, spheres, and so on, you can basically assemble them and come up with an interesting volume shape. And you already understand how easy it will be for you to create clouds, for example. So I'm going now to just do one last thing, and I'll complete this second session of tutorials. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to grab this volume node 3, and the corresponding VDB file is called zzz_2. So let me try convert this back to geometry as we did before. So I'm going to do volume to mesh and grab this, and you see the script runs and place the OBJ directly in the viewport. And of course, the more complex the volume, the larger, more complex the geometry, and more time needed to have it is ready. There it is. I'm going to grab this and put it here, and I think this is very interesting. We have an object made of quite many polygons, more than 2 million polygons. So Of course, we will have to experiment and see what is the best, compromise. But I think this is very interesting. You see how, if we get close, how this is made of actually tiny polygons. Let me see if I can get even closer. Okay. Yeah. Okay. You see, we have our geometry back, and as we did before, we can just go ahead and well, apply. I like the water shader. Let me find it again, and there it is. Merge into scene, and so you see, let me first delete something, or it's going to be slow. So you see, this one here is the where is it? I'm making some confusion, sorry. It's quite late here, so I'm pretty tired. So anyway, yeah, this is the volume node. Let me enable the preview, and I'm going to reduce the density. Okay, this below is the volume, and this one here is actually the geometry. Yeah, it's so tight and dense of polygons that even the the water shader doesn't show up very much from here. So let me get closer, and I guess I will have to let it go for some cycles. Maybe, you know what, apply not the water theme, but the water shader. Maybe this will do a better effect. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's very dense, of course, but well, this is it. It's somewhat, a geometry with a lot of tiny particles. In future movies, I will show you how we can go and create complex shapes, starting with, as I said, with very simple primitives, and what kind of effects we can, get from this simple script. Okay, so have fun, and we'll catch up later with more information to study. Bye.